Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are going to do a year-end top 10 list. So for Dokkan Battle, I did my top 10 favorite teams that I did in 2022. DFFOO, I thought about doing teams, but DFFOO is a little bit different. Like, I could think of some team builds, but like, to do 10 team builds kind of seems kind of crazy for this game because the team builds are a lot more simple in this game, right? So what I thought I would do for DFFOO, that would be more fitting to do just my top 10 characters of 2022. So these are going to be my top 10 favorite characters that I used in 2022. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I already cheated a little bit because some characters I kind of lumped a bunch into one number together because they're so similar. So it's a top 10 list, but there's going to be more than 10 characters mentioned. We'll put it that way. So an example might be, like, there'll be a section where, like, my number whatever character is a DPS character, but then I might lump in a couple of other DPS characters. I'd say, yeah, these guys are all kind of on the same level, so that's kind of like my number whatever as like a whole, right? So you kind of get it as we get into it. Now, this isn't like a definitive, I wouldn't call this a definitive tier list. This is my favorite and most used units. Now, that will correspond a lot with top tier units. So if you want to look at this as a tier list, you certainly can do that, but I don't want you to go in the comments and be like, oh, I think so-and-so on your number 10 is better than your number 6 or something like that. This is for me personally, and I'm thinking of the characters I use the most and were most relevant. And now keep in mind, this is for the entire span of 2022. So there might be a character ranked very high on the list, but they maybe came out earlier in 22, but for the time they came out, they were a lot more relevant and I like abused them a lot, right? So that's the other thing to keep in mind. It's not like this list isn't going to be like, this character is better than this character right now, but it might be during the year 2022, when I was using them, they were super top tier and I used them a lot. So just a couple of things for context there, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and hop in. So I've got this all set up. So at number 10, we have Edge. Now I've lumped in a couple of other characters with Edge. So I'll talk about Edge and I'll talk about kind of these other honorable mentions with Edge and why they're kind of like my number 10 slot. So Edge is here for basically his utility as a dodge or evade tank, and the reason why Edge for me falls into my top 10 is he is a character I have used quite a bit, and he's a character that can really help you with nasty, difficult content in that he gives your whole party evasion, right? Now, to a lesser extent, I have Cater and Layla here because they are also like evade tanks that I really liked and I used a lot. I did find myself using Layla a bit less because with her evasion, she brings the party up. And what I find is in a lot of team comps where I'm using tanks in general, I kind of want to be like more passive and not be moved up. So that's why Layla isn't higher for me. But Cater, I really like Cater, and she also is a force charger and she has counters. So she has a lot of valuable things that help for force time. So that's the other thing to keep in mind with this list is because pretty much most of 22 was force era. Not all of it was, but most of it was force era. So a lot of these are going to be characters relevant for force era. But yeah, so in my number 10 slot is kind of Edge and like the dodge tank, right? That's kind of what we're looking at there. Number 9 on my list is Minwu. Minwu's just a very good busted character. Minwu's traps work very, very well in force time. Minwu has a lot of healing. Minwu has the unique ability to use teleport and be very, you know, the thing I like about Minwu is that you can use him in a passive defense comp, which is how I prefer to use him, but you can use him in a more aggressive offensive comp where you're actually taking away enemy turns and not letting the enemies get a turn. So yeah, I think Minwu is a very, very good meta-relevant character in the year 2022, right? Number 8 is basically the, I have to lump these together, but it's the Enna Crow Hope combo. Just this, like, a character that can do a 60 million launch nuke is absolutely insane to me. So yeah, Hope and a Crow, like, as a combo, I'm giving them the number 8 slot. I think that they're very, very, very good. Hope, obviously, if you're unfamiliar with him, he's like the ultimate force charging character, and Enna Crow is the ultimate nuke, and they combine very well because Hope can really ramp up the gauge with his FR for Enna Crow. You can take it to like 800%, give Enna Crow like 3 to 4 attacks at 800%, enemies are nuked. So, very, very cool combo there. At number 7, I've got Celes. I do really, really like Celes now. I've got my Final Fantasy VI bias here, but she is a very unique type of tank, and her upgrade she got in 2022 made her much better because she can now turn physical attacks into magic attacks. She's got traps that heal, which Celes is a character that combines well with other force times. You can use her in a lot of different comps with force times. So I found Celes just to be a very good character that I used a lot in the year 2022. Number 6 is Penelo. Now, Penelo might be shocking to you because people aren't really talking about Penelo right now as I'm talking about it, but we think about it in the scope of the year 2022. And Penelo was there at pretty much at FR launch with Kane, and I rode Penelo for months. Penelo was the de facto force charging character in the game. Because you got to think of, like, I think the next force charger after Penelo is maybe like Braska. And not a lot of people like Braska, right? And Penelo, the thing with her is she had 2 skill uses that force charge. And Penelo was really introduced into the game to really teach players about force charging. Like that, she wasn't an accident. Like, she was there on purpose to teach players, like, hey, this is what characters with free active skills do during a force time. They get a bonus 50% on top of whatever the force time is, and they help you charge your gauge. And Penelo, to me, was just like a godly character in this game, especially in the early months of force time. So that's why Penelo is quite high on my list. She is a character I used all the freaking time. Any of you that watch my channel for any amount of time, especially when force time charged, you saw Penelo like all over the place. She was in all my character guides at that time, anytime I needed to show off a force, because she was the de facto. This was before Selfie had her C90. Selfie didn't force charge, right? They're like, all these characters didn't exist. Hope didn't exist, but Penelo was there. So Penelo is definitely a top 10 character for me in the year 2022 for sure. She's got to be on my list, right? Number 5 is going to be Gladio, but along with Gladio, I'm throwing in these other just tanks, like counter tank characters. So counter tanks in general are very, very highly used characters for me. Characters are very important, but basically, if you want to look at this as a single character, this is for Gladio, right? But Oran and Gower, there is other options that fit a similar mold that were very useful in 2022, right? Gladio, you can't say more about Gladio other than he's literally invincible and he counters and you can't die. Gladio is a cheat code, definitely deserving to be on my top 10 list for 2022. Honestly, Gladio, basically since he originally came out, would probably be on my top 10 list for every single year that he has existed. Like, Gladio has just been busted, right? Number 4 is going to go to Core. So Core is my primary character I'm talking about for number 4, but I have to throw in characters like Cisne, Kane. We can even talk about like Yang and Freya as well. But this is like the off turn, right? But Core is definitely the king of off turn. Core is my number 4 character of the year. I use him all the time. All of you that have Core know exactly how busted this man is. He even helps your party be a little bit defensive with that Oath of Absolute Defense. Just a very, very good character. Has rainbow numbers, which actually came into use in several fights this year. So yeah, Core is the man. But once again, Cisne and Kane there are just to show other really good examples of off-turn characters I think deserve to be mentioned. And once again, I would throw Yang and Freya, characters like that, into the mix as well. Number 3, Garnet. Now, you all are saying, like, what? Garnet number 3? Like, why is she so high? You guys have to remember, Garnet dropped in February of 2022, so very early in 2022. She's an anniversary character, but those of you that were playing at the time know that Garnet was like the most busted thing in this game for like 6 months plus. Like, she was the craziest thing. Like, before Lunafreya dropped, like, Garnet was the de facto, like, I'm the best support in the game, I'm gonna make your party look ridiculous, I'm gonna drop bombs every 4 turns. Like, she is crazy, and she's still good at, like, she's still crazy good, right? Like, I just don't use her as much because there's other options that are better than her right now. But Garnet is not a bad, like, character currently in the game either. So Garnet deserves to be very, very high on this list. I actually consider Garnet as number 1. And I feel like if I put her on number 1, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't debate that, in the understanding that this is encompassing the whole year of 2022. But I think Garnet definitely could have been number 1. She's up there. She's crazy, right? All right, so my top 2 characters of 2022 characters, because this is going to be definitely more than just one per. But number 2 is going to be the DPS. And I feel like all 3 of these characters are deserving of the number 2 slot, but they're also similar. I didn't want to just give them their own slot on the list. I feel like these guys can all be tied for number 2. So Jack, Garland, Tifa, and Renoa, these are the DPS units of 2022. And Jack Garland just by a sliver snuck into 2022. So we got to count him in 2022. But Jack, Garland, Tifa, Renoa, I mean, everybody knows these characters are so busted. I feel like these are all deserving of the number 2 slot, right? And then finally, number 1, put your guesses in right now before you watch. Maybe pause the video. But who do you think, and if you want to write in the comment, if you want to pause the video, put in the comment who you think who my number 1 is, or let me know if you got it right, if you're just thinking in your head. But I think those of you that are pretty into the game are going to know what number 1 is, because there's a very obvious character that we have not seen yet, right? So my number 1 character in the game for the year 2022, that prize goes to Lunafreya. I am always going to rate supports higher than DPS characters. DPS characters are a dime a dozen, but the reason why characters like Lunafreya and Garnet rate so high is because of how ridiculous they are. Now, you might be asking, like, where's Selfie? Like, Selfie's definitely deserving of top 10. The reason why Selfie's not on my top 10 is I used her more as a support, like as a friend unit, than actually in the party. So I felt like she wasn't as deserving on the list because I wanted to pick characters that I used a lot more in the party. Not that Selfie's bad in the party. She's a great in the party character. But it's if I have characters like Garnet and Lunafreya as my main supports, I kind of don't have room for a Selfie most times unless I want to run a double supported team. And Selfie as a friend unit is honestly just as busted as having her in the team. Because all you need her for is her debuff one time and get some quick force charging. Selfie is just too good as a friend unit. So when I thought of this list, I was thinking of characters that would be my in the party, right? So I know a lot of you are probably thinking, where the hell is Selfie? Selfie is definitely a top 10 deserving character. It's just I used her a lot more as a friend unit, right? And a couple of other honorable mentions, I would say like Maria and Ferris. I really enjoyed them a lot this year as well. So those are another characters I would throw out. But Lunafreya, she's very much deserving of the number 1 slot, not just being like the best support character in terms of like the auras and what she does, but she just enables any other character in the game to look better. So part of the reason we can say Jack, Garland, Tifa, and Renoa are so good are when they are supported by characters like Lunafreya. Her quick prayer and heavy prayer are so unique and so busted. And the other thing with Lunafreya that gives her so much value, she's actually one of the best calls in the game as well. So just having her as a call is absolutely ridiculous as well. But Lunafreya is just too good not to mention here. She is definitely my number 1 character. So once again, let's go through the list again. Number 1, Lunafreya. Tied for number 2, the main DPSs of 2022, Garland, Tifa, Renoa. Number 3 is Garnet. Once again, I explained how valuable she was. Number 4 is just core, but I'm just throwing in like Cisne Kane. Like they're kind of honorable mentions in that off-turn Yang as well, Freya. Number 5 is solo. It's just Gladio, but we're just honorable mentioning kind of Oran, Gao, other kind of counter tank characters, right? Number 6 is Penelo. Once again, just too valuable in early Force era. Number 7 is Celes. Number 8, the Hope and a Crow combo. Number 9 is Minwu. And then number 10 is Edge. And then I'm just talking about characters like Cater, and what's-her-face, Lila is like honorable mentions. I think like 8 could be in there as an honorable mention as well. Just evade tanks in general. So anyways, guys, let me know if you agree with my list. Let me know if you got the number 1 character correct, if you are guessing. Let me know what your top 10 would be of 2022. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.